the Sharks pull off an impressive victory, 5-0 against the Los Angeles Kings. Does that even matter anymore, though? We'll figure that out and more on this edition of Teal Town After Dark. But first, if you want to be a part of the show, check us out and interact with us across all the social media platforms, that being Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the YouTube chat, SoundCloud, Reddit, and of course all the shenanigans that go down in the Discord. Check that out and everything else that we've got to offer over at tealtownusa.com. Shield my eyes for that double vision. It's Ian Reed. Ian, I feel like it's deja vu. How are you doing, sir?
Good. I'm not going to pick on any goalies tonight, though.
All right. So I guess there won't be any goalie bashing for the evening. So if you had your pitchforks out for Mr. Ian Reed last time, unfortunately, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. Ian, I mean, great win for the guys tonight, 5-0. So, of course, the Sharks are rolling on all cylinders. But, I mean, what did you see tonight that was really working for them? And, I guess what has been the turnaround? Is it just the fact that, the cure-all for the Sharks is to play the Kings?
Yeah, I think, again, I liked a lot of the way they played it. They definitely did a lot more possession of the puck in the offensive zone. And I think, look, the LA Kings are a pretty banged up team right now, and they lost 2 more players today. They've lost like 7 guys in 5 games or something just ridiculous like that. Like, for them, when it rains, it pours. But, but you have to take advantage of that, right? Like, the Sharks were banged up for a long time, and a lot of teams beat up on them. So it's nice to see them kind of return the favor to another team, especially a team that we don't like the Kings.
Yeah, and again, it's just kind of interesting the way that the team has gone, up and down, and it seemingly some opponents have a really hard time with what the Sharks can bring at them, and some opponents are just able to slice through the team, like a warm knife through butter. So I don't know. Again, just kind of. It's been Jekyll and Hyde, all season, but again, it's good to see the big boys stepping up. The scoring, starts off about halfway into the first period. Timo Meier with his 25th on the season, Burns and Bonino on the assists there on the power play. Ian, what'd you think about that power play goal? And it's not the first time we'll mention the power play going on.
No, power play was really good tonight. Again, just puck movement, offensive, good forecheck. The puck gets to Timo Meier. Timo Meier makes no mistake. Cal Peterson has been pretty good for the Kings this year. I know that we've seen a lot of Jonathan Quick this year, but when called upon, I think Cal Peterson's done a pretty decent job for the Kings in games that I've watched anyway. But they got to him early and they got to him often. So definitely what you want to see the Sharks do. Probably would have wanted to see them do it a little bit earlier in the season than now. But you know what? I'm not going to come on here and cry over a win.
Well, right. And I think, again, for me, it's closing the year out with positives. And this is definitely a positive and definitely, shows that the team, still has some semblance of talent on it. And again, we like to talk about wins, not about losses. So, it's good to see the team, give us something good to talk about. But going a little bit further on into that first period, Matt Nieto scores his 5th of the season with Bonino. And this one is just a great little pop out. Bonino gives it to Matt Nieto right at the corner of the goal. He just slips it by Cal Peterson. And again, that third line that has been very stout defensively, but hasn't really been potting a lot of offensive goals, comes through with a big one. And I think for me, that second goal really is where the team started to assert itself a little bit more. And I felt that, the Kings, after that second goal, kind of seemed a little deflated.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think the third line is probably something that I think Bob Boughner probably would have probably hoped for more, to get more from them this season than he has. But it's nice to see Nieto get on the board. Yeah, but again, the theme of this is like, it's too little too late at this point. But I mean, it's still nice. I mean, look at the Sharks are coming up on a trade deadline where I think, some guys are going to draw. Is Matt Nieto going to be one of those guys? Probably not. But it's nice to have guys kind of get going at the right time, because if you are going to just kind of start selling everything, maybe, I don't think Matt Nieto's going to have GMs banging down Doug Wilson's door. But, to get going and to get some goals, right near the end here, you never know.
Yeah. I think, again, good moral victories, and, getting guys, on the board is going to be kind of interesting to see, how it sets up for season's future. And, a guy that we wanted to see a little bit more out of, and who did eventually scoring, was Jonathan Dahlen, who desperately needed a goal. I mean, he needed a goal like no other, and he gets it 19 minutes 11 seconds on the clock, with Meyer giving the only assist. It was an initial shot by Meyer, then that it was a kick out by Meyer that missed Hertl, that then got to Jonathan Dahlen, and he was able to capitalize on that one. And for me, again, sigh of relief for Jonathan Dahlen, because that kid needed a goal like no other. Ian, what are you seeing in Jonathan's game just that has, kind of gotten him in gear a little bit more?
I think a little bit I think with the Sharks being able to kind of push their forecheck a little bit more than they had previously before the last couple of games, I feel like you're going to get confidence from that, right? Like it's hard to get your confidence back when you're constantly chasing the game. And I think that the Sharks being able to hold some offensive zone time, real offensive zone time, that's not just dump chase, can allow a guy to like Jonathan Dahlen to get a little bit of his confidence back. And I think, that's the big thing for him right now is he has to be confident that he's going to go out there and he can be a difference maker, because he has all the tools to be a difference maker for this team. And we have seen earlier in the season where he had been a big difference maker. Obviously he's been a little bit in Bob Boughner's doghouse, which doesn't help. Unfortunately for some guys, it's hard to get your confidence when you're afraid to make the slightest mistake and end up back in the press box. So I think, I think that allowing, since he's come back in the lineup and the Sharks have looked better in the last two games significantly. And again, it's important to point out that this is a very beat up LA team. I want to see them beat up on some other teams now before I'm like, okay, all their problems are solved and we're back. Right.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think again, we talk about just extracting the most out of the season, because I don't have very much I don't have very large expectations for the rest of the season, to be quite honest with you, after the way that the team had played before.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just about learning the building blocks for next season, and getting young players more time on ice, and getting maturity out of players, because quite frankly, again, I don't foresee anything happening this season, but to build upon for future seasons, and to have an organization that's got a little bit of depth, and that's got some players that have seen both the bad times and the potential good when we do come out of this. So the Sharks ended that first period really, really well with the 3-0 lead. The interesting thing, that the shots on goal were 15-11 in favor of the Kings. And I think that the Sharks again were guilty of giving up some softies through the neutral zone. And then I think there were a couple times where when LA really pushed its own forecheck and really pushed its forwards way down into the zone, it did give the Sharks a little bit of some fits. I mean, Ian, from a goaltending perspective, what did you see from Adin Hill out of that first period that just, got him the shutout, through the first 20?
Everything you want to see from a guy coming back from such a long layoff, right? Adin Hill's had a pretty Jekyll and Hyde season. I think we can all agree on that. But man, when he's been on, and tonight he was on. And that's the thing with Adin Hill. Adin Hill has a lot of good tools. It's just an issue of, can the Sharks mold that into consistent goaltending? Because the problem with Adin Hill this year has been consistency, right? The peaks have been high for Adin Hill this year, I think. Like, there's definitely been some good games where Adin Hill has absolutely stood on his head, and you're like, yeah, that guy could be a guy going forward. But then the valleys have been very low, right? Like, there's been times in the season where a lot of people, would compare him to Martin Jones. And my response to those times at that, in those points in time, is like, no, guys, Martin Jones was good once. But no, I mean, Adin Hill tonight was fantastic. And if he can continually put games like that together, then I think he will find himself, maybe here or somewhere else, he'll find himself, is he ever going to be a starter? I'm not sure, but he's definitely, he could definitely settle into that nice 1B slot.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Going into that second period, the Sharks would again be, kind of chasing it a little bit. And I think, especially in the opening part of that second period, you figured that the Kings would be coming out really hard. But, the Sharks were hemmed in a little bit, but ended up getting a power play 8 minutes in, and Tomas Hertl scoring his 24th of the season, Couture and Meyer with the assists. Hertl getting another goal, and really, I mean, just good. It's fortuitous positioning, yes, but it was also well deserved, because I think Hertl did do a lot of muscling out front, and did kind of pay a price to get that goal.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, like, regardless of what happens with Tomas Hertl after the trade deadline, whether he's here, whether he's gone, or whatever, like, the Sharks, if they're going to be competitive for the rest of the season, and I know right now, like, you don't want that, because they're too far out of the playoffs to get back in. So this is a bad time to get really competitive. But if the Sharks are going to be, you still want to watch the games, right? And you still want to be entertained by the games. And, like, as much as everyone's on Team Tank at this point, I'm sure, come on, tell me you didn't enjoy watching the game tonight, right? So if they're going to be, if they're going to be competitive, these guys need to get going. And, Hertl was definitely a guy who probably needed to get going a little bit. I think Couture really needs to get going. I think Couture is the guy that probably concerns me the most right now, especially if Hertl's gone come the trade deadline, which I'm not advocating for. I'm not saying that's going to happen or not happen. I'm just saying, if it does happen, that's going to put a lot of pressure on Couture, who probably needs to step up a little more. Maybe not step up, but he needs to get going.
Yeah, and I think, again, we're talking about, the team becoming more competitive and stuff, but again, 8 points out on the second wild card, and it's definitely tough sledding to try and get yourself back into there. And again, I think that's why I've tempered my expectations at this point. But again, the team would shut out, would continue to shut out around Adin Hill, going through that second period, and then going into the third period, the team would add on to their lead, and Tomas Hertl with his 25th on the season, Balcers and Barabonov with the assists there. Again, just good to see a player getting another goal that he definitely needed. And again, I think it doesn't really change the metrics for me too much on Tomas Hertl. I think the priority definitely is to resign, but again, if you can't get any kind of movement on the contract, and I think we did have someone bring it up here to Chester. Yeah, if Hertl isn't extended by Tuesday, are you worried? And is that when Wilson begins taking calls? I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's not an either or thing though, because I don't think, when you start taking calls, that doesn't exclude you from making a deal at the ninth hour.
No, but right now, I mean, if you go by what's being reported right now, they're not taking calls on Tomas Hertl.
Right. Right.
Right. So if you can't get pen to paper early this week, and when I said this last show, if you don't get pen to paper early this week, like, yeah, those, you have to start making those phone calls. It's just jamming malpractice if you don't. Right. And again, like, I really like Tomas Hertl. The fan in me obviously doesn't want Hertl to go, right? Because I like the player. He's one of the, there's some players on this team that it's just, they're hard to ever be mad at, and Tomas Hertl's definitely one of those guys where I have a hard time ever finding any real anger towards Tomas Hertl. So, one of my favorite players. Would it suck to see him go? Absolutely. Do I understand the business and the future of the franchise and everything else? Of course. And I think you can do both, right? You can, as a fan, be like, yeah, I really like this player, but you can also understand the business side and be like, okay, yes, if he goes and he brings back a huge return, that's going to help the team going forward.
Yeah.
It sucks though, right? But it still sucks. It doesn't make it any easier. I'm not going to sit here and like, we're not like, if Tomas Hertl's gone to the deadline, I'm not coming on here and, popping champagne all over my computer monitor.
No,
right?
no. I mean,
I'll break it down the trade and I'll be, excited about what the future might bring, but there's going to be no victory party here.
No, and I think that it's I think even if we do re-sign Hertl, it's still still a team that's in transition, right? And I don't think an automatic signing automatically means that this team is, now signaling that it's going to be continuing to push forward. I mean, I think it's still going to be some time that the team's going to need to recoup. So
yeah,
it's going to be. It's not bittersweet either way, but
I think it's bittersweet for sure. Like, if he goes, that's bittersweet. Like,
but if he stays, would that also be bittersweet as well? Because it's like, okay,
depends on what it depends on. It depends. Okay, so if Tomas Hertl stays, it really depends on what the next move is.
Right.
Like, if Tomas Hertl stays, and then and then it's just, well, we're just gonna, we're gonna sign some more third liners and this thing's gonna turn around, baby. Well, then, yeah, that's bittersweet too. That's the one problem, I think, looking like from a future perspective. Yeah, like that's problematic, right? Because you want to like, this team seems like a rudderless ship,
right?
And so keeping him, like, yeah, the next move is super important. Because if we're keeping him, and then if we're keeping him and then keeping everyone else, then yay, another season of this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've got some stuff coming in from the chat. Somebody asking about what happened to Dzingel. Dzingel didn't really show all that much, and I think that maybe giving him a little bit longer of a leash would have been more prudent, yes. But I also know it's results oriented, so you kind of understand on some level.
So I went and looked, and the like, he had a goal in the, I think, 6 games he played. The fancy stats were not great.
Right.
Not that Bob cares about fancy stats, but for the record, like, they're not great. I think with Dzingel was the guy that you claimed at the height of this team's injury woes, where they were just losing guys. And, I look at, what did you got him for nothing. Picked him up for nothing. Got a goal out of him. He held you through a really tough stretch of hockey where the Sharks were absolutely ass. But guys are coming back into the lineup now, right? Like, I would have probably kept the Dzingel up. I might dress him, like, obviously, like, look at, you scratched Noah Gregor tonight and you put in Jeffrey Viel, right? Like, this is where I have frustration with Bob Boughner, because if you're, no, look at, offense hasn't been the problem the last 2 games, but most most of the season, the Sharks have had a problem with offense. I think that's we can all agree on that, right? So what good now? Not that Noah Gregor's finished a whole lot here, but Noah Gregor's a guy that at least adds offensively, right? He's going to push play. He's going to do things like that. How? Like, look at, I love Jeffrey Viel. Like, Jeffrey Viel is a goddamn psychopath, and I love him. But he's not helping offense, right? So, like, this is the problem that I have with the way this team is coached. And this is why I get worried, right? Because you want to see guys come up, but guys are going to get called up, but then it's like, well, Jeffrey Viel and Noah Gadjevich have to be in every game. What, like, there's only so many spots to go around. And when you're, again, I like Jeffrey Viel. I don't hate Gadjevich. I'm not in love with Gadjevich. I think if you had to dress one or the other, like, I would probably dress Viel because Bob Bugner's going to dress that guy, right? I've accepted that. It's fine. But when you address both and, like, those guys always get in the lineup, and sometimes it comes at a cost. Like, when you're dressing both of them, you're taking somebody out of the lineup who probably belongs there.
Yeah. I mean, we look tonight across the fourth line's minutes, and they're actually pretty respectable. Gadjevich with 1050, Scott Reedy with 1228, and you've got Jeffrey Viel with 1135. So, I don't think
but they're taking, but both of those guys in the lineup is taking a spot away from someone who is better.
Oh, no doubt.
Both of those guys are not, like, those guys should never be in the lineup together. I don't care who we're playing. I don't care how many tough guys you think you need in the lineup. It's like, the 90s are over, man. The 80s are even farther behind.
Yeah. And I think for me, at least, I also think that it's kind of, I think that they're AHLers at this point, right? I mean, I don't.
They are, yeah. Like, I mean, on most, like, and again, like, I love Jeffrey Viel. He's a fucking psychopath, but I also acknowledge, like, on a contending team, that guy's not dressing in your bottom six.
Yeah.
Facts. Like, that's just facts.
Yeah. And again, you could maybe afford having those two, a Jeffrey Viel and a Gadjevich, on a fourth line if your third line was more of a offensive weapon than it is. But
that's the problem with this team, though. The Sharks' third line should be their fourth line.
Exactly.
And you should be dressing better players to fill in that third line. That is the problem with the Sharks.
Yep. That's where I was going. Yeah.
Yeah. So your fourth line is basically an NHL mucker line. Your third line is an NHL fourth line.
Your second line is like a 2C kind of line, right? Because I don't think Barabonov.
The second line's good. Like, the second line is good. The top six are fine. For what the Sharks have to throw out there right now, the top six are fine. It's the bottom six that makes no sense, but it's Bob Bugner, and Bob Bugner's got a Bugner.
Bob Bugner has got a Bugner. You heard it here first, folks. Yeah, no, and look, I think the team, it's got some pieces, yes, but I think it's also got some big talent deficiencies. And again, we've talked about that fourth line, it being, a glorified AHL line. Yeah, and you can just see the depth is just not there for this team to be a contending team at this moment. So, as much as we like the victory, it's kind of hollow at this point.
It's fine. Like, when the Sharks do
hockey jerk, I love it. Landy, if you say Barabonov isn't a second liner one more time, I'm playing Puck Guy's theme song. Puck Guy's like, I have a theme song?
What is Puck Guy? There he is. What is Puck Guy's theme song? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. I mean, look.
Chat, help me out. What is Puck Guy's theme song? If Puck Guy was a pro wrestler, what is his music?
I don't know. Let's take a look at Alexander Barabonov. All right.
Okay.
So Barabonov has 29 points in 49 games. 29 points in 49 games. So almost okay. So almost 30 points in 50 games. Is that a second liner? Ooh. You know what? I think he is the second liner. I think the guy that I look at as the third liner is Balsers. I think. To me, I think the guy that's a little bit miscast here.
I think.
AJ Balser sucks. Waits for Jerk to ban me. I love AJ.
Balsers does a lot of things that I really like, but on a contending team, yeah, probably a third liner.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at his stats. Through 36 games this season, he's got 15 points. Through 41 games last season, he had 17 points. So to me, that's, I don't know. I'm going to say that sounds like a Melker Carlson type year, but I feel like I'm going to get blown away.
The knives are coming out.
Yeah, exactly. PJ 48 Balsers hasn't been healthy. I mean, true. I agree. And I don't know. Man.
I like Balsers does a lot of things right. The one flaw in his game, unfortunately, is I don't think he has an NHL shot.
Speaking of NHL shots, his lifetime shooting percentage is 10%. And he's taken
which is good. That's fine.
196 shots in his NHL career.
10% is fine. Like it's okay. Like again, like there's just some guys who do a lot of the things right, but they just don't finish. Noah Gregoritis. Balsers has had some pretty decent problems with that this year, where he's been in the right place, doing all the right things, and the puck just doesn't cross the line. And some of that's probably luck. But if you look at a 10% shooting percentage, that's pretty average. So I mean, like, is it bad luck or what is it? I'm not sure.
Oh, Dave B. This one's pretty funny. Malcolm was bad, getting 50 points. At least Balsers is decent. Yeah, he got those 15 points despite his play, right? Yeah.
Well, I think Melker, here's the thing with Melker, right? Like when Melker came on the scene, like everyone remembers that first season Melker was here.
Oh, yeah, when he played in the wing with Jumbo.
Filling the friggin' net.
Yeah.
Right? And then he fell back to earth. And I think like that's,
we probably already have Bill. Here's Hockey Jerky. He chimes in. Balser's having a career shooting percentage at 10% tells me he needs to shoot more.
Maybe he does. Like, I don't know. Like I really like Rudolph Balsers. I just think that again, it's there. He does a lot of the right things. He just needs to put more pucks in the net. That's all.
Yeah. Milker's got the Sharks rookie record for consecutive.
Yeah, man. I remember when he first came here, man. When he first came here, he scored like a bucket of goals. It was fantastic.
But again, like he was on Jumbo's wing. I mean, who wouldn't score buckets of goals on Jumbo's wing? I mean, he literally made guys. Yeah, he literally made Jonathan Chichu a Rocket Richard winner.
It's true.
All right, so wrapping up the game, the Sharks would end up beating the Kings 5-0. Shots on goal being 29-27 in favor of the Kings. Sharks go for 2 for 3 on the power play. They kill the only penalty they faced. 29 hits for the Kings, 19 for the Sharks. 25 blocked shots for the Sharks, 10 for the Kings. 12 giveaways for the Sharks, 7 for the Kings. Don't like that giveaway number, but when it's a shutout, I'll live
X's and O's, man. It's bad X's and O's.
Oh, Skylar saying you could put Ian on Jumbo's wing and he could get you 30 points. But Ian's a goalie.
Not right now, you couldn't. Oh, man. I was walking. I don't know how it's nothing to do with the show, but I was walking and I slept on ice and I did everything to like not smash, like just not eat a bunch of ice. And I survived. I didn't fall, but I pulled a muscle in my groin and I'm in just agony. And it's been like weeks. So yeah, I'm not scoring any goals on Jumbo's wing because I'm just not getting from one part of the ice to another. I ain't playing goalie either.
My career's done, man.
My career's over. Yeah, this is it.
My last
I was
shot.
going to junior. I mean, my last shot going to play junior this year. At 42. It's over, man. My career is over.
All right, so so I guess going a little bit beyond the game now, and talking a little bit about where this puts the team. I mean, does this change anything on people's trade value?
Jesus fuck no.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. On the trade value?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think look at, like, again, maybe, if a guy heats up at the right time, maybe he pops up on someone else's radar, but for the most part, like, teams have professional scouts, right? And they know way ahead of time. Like, you remember how Doug Wilson always talked about how he had his shadow roster?
Yep.
Like, all teams have that, right? They have guys that they're like, oh, if this guy became available, we could slot him in here and whatever. Like, so I don't think this changes anything. Like, I think obviously, like, injuries can obviously maybe change things. Like, I think if you're a team like the Colorado Avalanche, for example, who just lost Gabriel Landeskog to injury, I think Tomas Hertl looks really, really nice all of a sudden. Like, maybe you're a little more inclined to throw a few more things in to make sure, like, if he does go to market, that trade goes your way. But I think overall, like, guys already know who they're going to go after.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, like, oh, this guy got really hot in the last week. Now it's 3 seconds or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that changes.
All the seconds. Well, I mean, so now if I'm just looking at his points correctly, he had, how many do you have tonight? He had 2 points or 3 points? 2 goals and an assist, or just 2 goals?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I can't remember. 2 goals for sure. 2 goals for sure.
2 goals, just 2 goals.
Yeah,
okay,
2 goals.
So 25 goals. So that puts him at what, 44 points, 45 points.
Mm-hmm.
45 points, and I'm trying to think. You could probably gauge him as like a 2A, 1B kind of center.
I think most contending teams, he's probably your number 2 center. And if your number 2 center is Tomas Hertl, you're sitting pretty.
Yeah.
Like, if your top line is good enough that Tomas Hertl is your number 2 center, you're in good shape.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm just saying, I'm just thinking about comparable trades. I'm thinking, the Jack Eichel trade, that kind of seems, not that it's...
Jack Eichel's a different thing, though, because of the term left on his deal, the
true.
age factor.
Yeah.
Like, Jack Eichel's, 4 years younger than Hertl.
Yeah. Any comparable trades come to mind, Ian? And
not off the top of my head. You'd think I'd have, like, something in my brain, right? I don't know. I mean, this is your, like, to me, if I'm Doug Wilson, I want a first. I want a prospect. And then I want something else.
A first prospect and something else, yeah.
Right? Yeah, like I want like a good prospect.
Yeah.
Like, not, I don't want your I want an A prospect.
Right. You want at least the organization's second or third best prospect out of the pool.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I think you're probably not getting it. I mean, unless, depending on who you're trading with, right? Like, if maybe you can extract their best prospect out of them if they're just a team that's flush with players that, their number 1 prospect's going to have a hard time getting into the lineup regularly. Again, like the Sharks used to trade away first like they were candy. But yeah, I think, it's got to be, like, Jerk, I think, has it right. Like, Jerk's right. First round pick, A prospect, BC replacement player. Yeah. That's probably what I am looking for in a trade.
Yeah. Yeah. What about for Barabonov? I mean, what do you think for a good deal for him to re-sign here would be, or if you were going to try and extract some value out of him, what could he trade?
I want to hit something in the chat first. Like,
Okay.
we got a first for Gaudreau. Yeah, but like, that's not a normal, like, that Gaudreau, like, that's just not a normal thing, right? Like that, the first for Gaudreau, like, I wouldn't look at that and be like, oh well, if Gaudreau's worth a first, then you have to get X, Y, Z, LMNOP. Like, it's just, that's an oddity. Like, that's just, I don't know how Doug Wilson got a first for Barclay Goodrow, but that's not normal. Right? Like, that's not a normal return for a player of that caliber.
Well,
And as Dirk said, and he has the 1 year for, yeah, Goodrow did have the year left too, which, obviously was a factor. He had another year on a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
You're like, Hertl could be strictly a rental for whoever picks him up. I wouldn't. If you're using the Goodrow trade as like your marker for good or bad trade, I don't think I wouldn't do it, because I just think that trade is, it's a fluky win for Doug Wilson, that one. Like, I don't know how he did it. Again, the year left on Goodrow's contract on just a song of a deal definitely helped. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, and then I guess Barabonov.
Barabonov.
What do you want to do for a re-sign for him, and what, would you let him walk if he asked for X amount?
Barabonov's a tricky one, right? Because I really like what Barabonov's done this year, but again, the NHL is littered with flash in the pan guys that come into the league late, light it up, and then fall into oblivion on bad deals after. So I'm really buyer beware on Barabonov for that reason, just because history hasn't always been kind to that type of player getting paid off of a small chunk of games. Like, Barabonov's played, I think, 70 NHL games at this point, 71, 72 maybe. I don't know. Barabonov's a guy I probably, like, I would do 3x3.
Yeah,
3x3. I like 3x3 is the highest I would go. I might even like, because I think he's gonna want some term. If I had my way, like my absolute way, I'm going like 2.5x1, and you can show me again next year, and then we'll talk.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I would do, but I don't think that's going to get it done. And look, he's not an RFA. Like, he can walk after the season, so he does have that leverage that he can go and test the market. So I mean, but he's another guy where I don't know if you would get a significant return for him. But he's another guy, if you can't get pen to paper quickly, if someone calls about him, I'd probably take that call.
Yeah. Okay.
Because what like, even if he goes for let's say he goes for like a 4th round pick, right? Yeah, okay, great. So you gain a 4th round pick you didn't have before, and then I circle back to him in the summer. Maybe he comes back, maybe he doesn't. Right? I don't know. I mean, he's a guy, like, he's a good player, and he's a guy that would be, depending on what the plan is going forward, like, he's a guy that can definitely, either be a stopgap, or maybe he's a guy who can, still be a decent player when things finally start to turn. But I don't know. It is what it is. Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, and we don't know how long it's going to take to turn around. So I think for me, it's a case of, if you don't get him in at the number that you want, then you just need to maximize value on him. And yeah, that's kind of where I think I seem to sit with you guys on it. Okay, so that kind of being said, and this game kind of being wrapped up in the books, Ian, anything else on the radar that you want to see from the team coming up? any kind of big things that you got going on insofar as um, maybe markers or placeholders in the season that we're coming up on a big one being the trade deadline, but is there anything else that you need to see from this team to kind of get a read on, okay, where is it going? Is I mean, I think the trade deadline will reveal a lot, but
Yeah.
Anything else that you're kind of keeping your eyes out on?
I mean, it's again, I think the Hertl thing's gonna really, really tell what's this team is doing.
Yeah.
Because if Hertl goes, it's clearly a rebuild at that point. If you're not rebuilding, you're not recreate. Like it's a full, like at that point it's a full rebuild, because you don't just replace a guy like Tomas Hertl, right? Like you're not gonna let Hertl go or trade him for whatever and then go find a new Hertl in free agency, right? If that is your plan, then you just keep Hertl. If they keep Hertl, it's going to be interesting to see. Like this summer's, I think, going to tell us a lot, right? The kind of moves they make, if there's any buyouts this summer, if like those are the kind of things that I'm interested in seeing. Like, is there going to be any more buyouts this summer? Who, I think Tomas Hertl is obviously the big fish on the Sharks, but if they, depending on who else they move, I think that's going to be the key. It's like, what is it's going to give us a direction of where they're going, right?
Yeah. Okay. Chester just kind of chiming in. Honestly believe that the deadline will come and go and the Sharks won't do anything even if Hertl isn't signed prior. I mean, that's definitely
it's possible. I mean, then you better hope that you get Hertl pen to paper after. Like, you do not want to have the Sharks do what the Islanders did with John Tavares.
Yeah. I think that is the nightmare scenario for everybody.
That's the nightmare scenario, isn't it?
Yep. Trade Bugner. Lanical. Trade Bugner.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a Bob Bugner guy at all. I think if you're going to go and start moving guys, and that'll be interesting too, if Hertl does go, like AJ in the chat saying like, Burns and EK are be like, trade me right now. Well, good luck getting traded, EK. But that'll be interesting too. It'll be, because the Hertl thing is the big domino. Once that falls, we'll kind of have an idea, because if Hertl goes, then obviously, we're rebuilding. And then, we'll see who, even though it's hard to get things out of the Sharks, but like, we'll see who else requests trades. Like, if we see a bunch of guy request trades, then obviously, this thing's going to get stripped to the bolts. Maybe it doesn't. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. So that all being said, Ian, I think that'll wrap it up for this evening. Any final thoughts and, where the people can find you? And, yeah.
You can find me on Twitter at Ian Blogs Hockey on the Twitter machine. Like I said, I'm pretty sociable. If you have any comments, questions, if you just want to tell me I'm an asshole, I mean, come do it. It'd be cool.
Cool. Well, well, yeah. And as for me, I mean, you can use my first name. That's Eric, ERIK, Landy, LANDI, across all of the social media garbage. In case you have missed us and you want to catch us some more, check us out across all of the podcasting platforms, that being the Apple Podcast Store, Google Play Store, the YouTube Rewind, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and of course, check out everything else and more on Teal Town.
I do want to say something before we go.
He does want to say one more thing.
Yeah. So we've got a new plan now, right? So, instead of the reach round, the reach round is now dead. Anyone who does the reach round has to deal with me, and no one wants to deal with me.
Right.
So what we're going to do instead is we are going to start. I'll probably still reply to the comments on the YouTube chat in text, but I think what we'd like to do going forward is we would like to take your comments on the YouTube channel for this video, and then we will address them on the next video instead of the reach round. We kind of did that today because we did talk about Barabonov, which was one of the comments in the last thing, so I kind of covered that topic without us doing it specifically. And again, and this isn't don't be afraid. Like, this isn't like we're not going to beat up on you or anything, or be like, oh my god, look at this idiot posted, right? Like, it's going to be like legit, constructive comments based on your comments from the last video. So if you leave a comment below on this show, then on the next show, we'll hit those up, and we'll definitely, we'll give it some time to be discussed on the show. It's better than telling you scores that you can look at your fucking phone for. And it gets our interactions up. I think it makes you happy, makes us happy, and no one has to die because we do the reach round. It's all good.
It's all good. So let's see if I get this right. Keep it real. Keep it teal. Keep it real teal. Thank you, and have a great night, everybody.